to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where two bearded film fans watch the best and worst horror movies and talk about them. Today's episode is a little bit different from the usual format. It's a bonus episode of sorts, but it's still got two bearded film fans presenting it, which is lovely, obviously. So my name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by Jordan Graham, the writer and director, amongst many other things, of supernatural horror film Sator, which comes out on demand via 1091 Pictures on February the 9th in the US and February the 15th in the UK, which I think will be today when this episode is going live. Brief synopsis: secluded in a desolate forest, a broken family is observed by Sator, a supernatural entity who is attempting to claim them. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for taking the time to join us on the podcast today, and many congratulations on Sator.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's been a long time coming. Yeah. So it's been a number of years, obviously, that since you filmed it and that since it's been in post-production. Yeah, so it's been 7 years now. Okay. That's pretty intense. How do you feel now that it's out there in the world and people are watching it?
I mean, it's definitely a relief. But when I went to the film festivals, that was kind of like my celebration, I guess, and finally getting it out there. But then after the film festivals, I was working on it again, and it's just been I'm just ready for this thing to be done now. I'm ready to get out there, and I don't know, it hits me sometimes, and then sometimes it doesn't. I think I'm just more really relieved now that it's just I don't have to edit anything else on this film. So
the film festivals was in 2019, is that correct?
And 2020. Yeah, it started in Fantasia 2019, and then my last one that I went to was I think it was Aberystwyth or Abattoir Film Festival in Aberystwyth, and that was, I want to say that was 2020, but maybe not. Anyways, yeah.
Exciting stuff. So yeah, just if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your filmmaking background.
Well, my filmmaking background is just going out and doing it. I've been trying now for 21 years, a lot of trial and error, even with this film, a lot of trial and error. I was not educated with formal education. It's just going out, watching a lot of movies, getting into a lot of different a lot of different directors, and then just trying to make it yourself, basically. Yeah.
Who are your favorite filmmakers and favorite directors?
Oh man, that's a long list.
That's a bit.
But I definitely go through a lot of obsessions over certain directors, and then they'll go away, and I'll go to another one, and I'll come back. But I love Stanley Kubrick. I love David Lynch. I love Panos, or not. Well, I like him too, but Yorgos Lanthimos. I like Gaspar Noé. I like Ari Aster. I like Robert Rodriguez. I like Jonathan Glazer. Paul Thomas Anderson.
Were you in a particular obsession with a particular director when you were writing this film?
With 7 years making a film, I went through quite a lot. And,
yeah, I bet.
It started off with Sator. The beginning inspirations was Jeremy Saulnier, his film Blue Ruin. That was a huge inspiration on wanting me to put everything that I had into one film, because that's what he did with his. He remortgaged his house, and he was just very inspirational for me. And then another one is another director is Cary Fukunaga. His first season of True Detective was a major influence, and with the mood and how the characters speak. And then I can't pronounce the director's last name. I should have looked it up. And I think his first name's Davis. It's the guy that directed Animal Kingdom and The Rover. The Rover was a major influence on the quietness and the atmosphere. And so that was before I was making the movie. Then while making the movie, Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin was a big influence, and Nicholas Winding Refn's Only God Forgives was a huge influence. And then in color, then when it came in time for post-production, The Witch, Robert Eggers' The Witch, like I already shot the film by the time The Witch came out. But as far as like coloring the film, that was, I had screenshots of his film right next to mine, so I can, because I never colored a film before, and so and I liked his look, so I tried. I used that as a reference. Yeah, so I have influences all over the place.
I think you can see a lot of them as well. Like I'd read a lot about the film, read a lot about yourself, and I didn't sort of see a lot of those directors and films mentioned. But now that you do mention it, you can see it. I saw Blue Ruin a long time ago, but in terms of cinematography, I can definitely see some parallels there. And
well, definitely like the first half hour of that movie when it's like really quiet, like visually, I wasn't like super influenced, I guess, visually by the film. It was more, I did like the atmosphere that he was setting in the first half hour. But it was more about like, he did a lot of the jobs himself on that. And it was more the background of that movie that really influenced me more than the aesthetic. The aesthetics was like True Detective and The Rover in the beginning. And then and like Stanley Kubrick, of course, and like David Lynch, like the very last shot of the movie is very much influenced by Inland Empire, the rabbits section in Inland Empire. So yeah, awesome. I get a lot of inspirations. So
yeah, that's great, man. Sounds amazing. So what was the initial inspiration for Sator? And obviously I've read a lot about it, and obviously you're going to be able to give us more information, but how did your grandmother's real life experiences with that entity shape the making of the film? Because I know it wasn't something that was initially present when you started making the movie.
No, she wasn't even supposed to be a part of the film at all. Budget restraints. So I built the cabin, and I wasn't expecting the cabin to look that good, and I needed a second location, and I couldn't find anything that looked as good as that. And so when I settled on my grandmother's house, I was like, oh, this would be kind of a cool thing to get her into the film for like one cameo, and it'd just be a quick thing. And if I didn't like it, then I won't put it in there. And so I brought my friend, the actor of Pete, Michael. He's a friend of mine since I was 13 years old. I told him that, like, you're going to meet my grandmother on camera. You're going to pretend to be the grandson, and I want you to talk about spirits, because that'll probably just get her talking. And so he came in there and started talking about spirits, and she brought up randomly about the voices that are in her head and how she used to communicate with them through something called automatic writing. And I have never heard about that in my life. And she just decided to share it while we were shooting. And so after that, I went home and did research into my family's history a little bit. They didn't know very much because they were way too young. I asked if they had any of those automatic writings, and they said my grandmother burnt them all. And so now I was just trying to figure out how. I love this idea of automatic writings and my grandmother story into this film that would make it really unique and very personal. So I was like, now I'm going to pursue that. But every time I shoot with my grandmother, you never can predict what she's going to say, and a lot of what she says doesn't work with the story I was trying to tell. So I would have
absolutely so absolutely none of what she said was scripted.
No,
it was all
no, that she believes everything that she says. Some of the things she says wasn't true. Like she talks about how my grandfather died by going out into the grass and laying down out in the grass, and he died of lung cancer. And I don't know where that came from in her brain. But I was able to use that in my story. Every time she would say something, I'd have to take another week-long break and rewrite and figure out how I'm going to make it work into the film. And but then this is before Sator was even the entity of Sator was even in the film. This was just about automatic writings and voices. And then when I was in post-production. Dementia got really, really bad for my grandmother, and she had to be put into a care home, and we were cleaning out her house. And I ended up finding 2 boxes. One was of all of her automatic writings. So all the ones that you see in the film, I didn't create. Those were all hers. And
Wow.
and then the other box was a 1,000-page journal that she wanted to have published back in the day, back in 1968. That journal is, it's 1,000 pages, and it's only documenting 3 months of her life with Sator, of when she met him until she ended up in a psychiatric hospital because of it. And it's such a like, it's a story that I would love to adapt one day. But I found this when I was already in post-production, so obviously I couldn't adapt it then. But I was like, well, I have the real person that went through this, and it's like, okay, I need to put Sator into this film somehow. So then I go to my grandmother, but it's like a race against time because dementia is starting to take over. So the first time I shot with her, she talked all about Sator, so I got almost everything. But then like the third time I went to her, or fourth time, she didn't remember him at all, really. Like it took me 40 minutes of just filming her face and asking, who's Sator, until she gets like a sentence or 2 in there. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, so that's the history of it, and how it kind of came to be.
So obviously we've already mentioned that you wrote, directed, scored, pretty much did everything on the movie over 7 years. You mentioned building a cabin. Is set design and construction a passion of yours, or was that more of a budgetary need, would you say?
Well, budgetary need, I mean, again, I went into this knowing that I was going to do everything myself, but because I wanted to prove that I have something of value and I can do a good job in every single aspect. So hopefully the industry will recognize it and want to work with me. The cabin was, I had one friend out there help me with the framing to make sure it stayed up for a couple months, or sorry, a couple years. Sorry, my cat.
Oh yeah.
But it took me 2 months to build the cabin. So no, it was definitely like the fence. The fence was our fence, and that was falling down. So I ripped the fence apart and used that as the walls. My neighbor happened to be building a new deck in his house, or at his house, and he the day I started building the cabin, he was building a new deck. So he gave me all the old wood, and that's what I used for the floors. A lot of the stuff was donated. A lot of the materials were donated to the film, and then I decorated it with stuff I got from like the thrift stores and my grandmother's house. But it was. The roof was awful. Like the roof was just a bunch of particle board, and then right before we started shooting, it started raining, and puddles built up. So the roof drooped down like this in the middle of the cabin, and so I had to go out there with like a hose to like drain it, and then after that, every single time I knew it was going to rain, I would have to put these braces up on each particle board so it wouldn't droop down. And it lasted. The cabin stayed up for a couple years, so it started to look really lived in. Like the first couple weeks was really cool because it looked all brand new in this new cabin. Then it was definitely like spiders were putting their web in there because it was all open. Like the roof was pretty much open, and so it started looking more lived in as we were going along. And
So with all those roles you took on in this independent film, did you find that was it ever overwhelming in terms of the amount of work you took on? Was it rewarding, and was this more of a choice from the get-go, or was it kind of just how it worked out? I guess it was a choice, wasn't it?
It was choice. It was choice. There was I had 3 major reasons of why I did it. Well, 2 major reasons. One, smaller reason is that I don't like using people unless I have something to offer them. And since I had really no money, I wasn't going to do that. But that was a very small reason of why I chose to do it for this film. Another one was that I've been trying to make films now or get noticed for 21 years now. And it was 14 years when I started this one. And I wanted to do something as unique as I possibly could in the most unique way to kind of, because so many films come out and they get swept under the rug, and so I wanted to just do something that is different. I didn't care if it was commercial or not. I just next films I'll worry about it being more commercial, but this one I wanted to make something that was just as different as I could possibly make, and again in the most unique way, which is me doing it myself. So that was one. Then the deciding factor was me trying to get funding for this film. I tried doing a crowdfunding. I failed. And then I had a local filmmaker. I was in a really low spot, and local filmmakers came to me and they were like, we want to give you advice on how to move forward. And I was like, yes, let's do it. I would love the advice. And this came from multiple different people. And I went and met up with them at different times, and they would talk down to me. Their advice was talking down to me and telling me that you can't make a film unless you have a film of quality, unless you have this and this and this. And it's like, well, yeah, I would love to have that, but like, I don't have funding. Obviously my campaign failed, and this is not what I want to hear. And you're kind of telling me that I'm not good enough to do this now. And so then after that day, I was like, okay, if I ever get funding, I'm going to do this film myself to prove to them that, and to other filmmakers, that you can make a film of quality without all the bells and whistles. And so yeah, I still I'm hoping it worked, but
I mean, I think it's undoubtedly worked. So that inspired you in a way that's perhaps they weren't trying to inspire you in that way, and it kind of drove you even more so to get it made.
Yeah,
that's good.
And then yeah, and you're saying like, did it stress me like a lot to take on? Yeah, it was definitely when I was building the cabin is when I was like it took me so long to do the foundation that I was starting to freak out about all the jobs I had to do in the future. And that's when I decided, it's like, okay, I'm going to take this one step at a time, build the cabin, then we'll move on, start shooting, and I'll take the shooting one day at a time. And then when we get into post-production, we'll worry about post-production. I'll worry, like post-production was years of myself. I was by myself. I was complete isolation. Cut a lot of my friends out because I just had to work on this film. Audio, all the audio that you hear.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask, was about the sound design, because I understand that you recorded everything yourself. Yeah,
besides my grandmother speaking, everything had to be done in post-production. So that's like every cloth and every breath, every little thing that you hear. And since it's a very quiet film, you hear every little thing. So yeah, it took me 1 year and 4 months just to do that. So yeah, it was audio drove me kind of insane there for a little bit.
Was that kind of your first experience really doing that as well?
Oh yeah, post-production. Yeah, because I'm so used to not having good microphones, and I would take audio from other sources, and since I wanted this all to be mine, I didn't want to use other sound libraries or anything like that. No. So yeah, I never recorded anything like that before. I've never mixed in 5.1 surround before. If you watch the screener, that was stereo, but this movie sounds pretty cool, and when you can hear things going all around your head.
Yeah. I noticed that. I did notice that. It sounds really good. And obviously you said it's a very quiet film, so those moments where the audio does really take center stage are really impactful.
So then like I had to learn how to color the film. I never color graded a film before, so that took 1,000 hours to color grade it. And then it was definitely there was a lot of learning as I went along that I've never it was stuff I've never.
I'm assuming there's a lot of stuff you've learned now that you can just take forward into your future projects and stuff.
Well, exactly. So like I will never make another film again by myself, but having this knowledge now, I will be able to help move things along faster with a team. I feel like, because I kind of know
You
what
could
I
just
would
go.
want.
You could just go out the way. I've done this before. Maybe.
Well, not like that, but just like I could sit in a room with people and be like
Yeah.
we could work together on stuff. I'd like to be present, and
Mm.
I don't want to. I don't want to micromanage either. I want people to be able to do their jobs, but I feel like I can help move them along. And I've said this before, where like if someone gave me like $1 million budget or $2 million budget before Sator, I wouldn't have been able to. I wasn't ready to make a film with something like that. Now, I feel like I'd be able to handle myself pretty well and with that type of environment. So it's been, I mean, 7 years is a long time to.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time to learn and grow, and
It's a lot of time to dedicate to one thing as well, isn't it?
yeah. And it wasn't supposed to take that long. I mean, I wanted it to be a 3-year project at the most, that 3 years. So, but I
But
just kept
it's been well
plugging along.
received. It's been well received. It's had positive
That's nice.
reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
So far.
how have you found that? How have you found that experience? Like putting something out into the world that you've been so close to for so long, you've kind of nurtured and let grow, and then you're releasing it into the world, releasing it into the wild. How did
It's
that feel?
nerve-wracking. Like, especially with the beginning at the film festivals. Like, yeah, I had no idea how that was going to play out and how people would feel about this thing. And since this is all me, it's not like a whole team. Like I don't put the blame on anybody else. If something's wrong, that's my fault. I wouldn't put the blame on anybody else either, but I'm just saying like, yeah. So it's just like, this is putting myself, every little bit of my work and my personal story out there, or my family's personal stories. Like how are, I don't know how people are going to react, and knowing that this film is not the most commercial film out there, and it requires your attention, and it has it's got a slower pace to it. So it's definitely like, I don't know. But in the festival world, it's been well received. So that's been really encouraging. Now the film is out there with the public to see. And yeah, I'm afraid of being like ripped to shreds on that one. But I won't, I try my hardest not to read reviews or like, I haven't, like, the trailers on YouTube, and I won't look at comments or anything like that.
Oh, really?
So yeah, no, I try just
That's probably
as much
that's
as possible.
probably
Like, I love these things, and but yeah, I definitely try to. I don't want to get in my head or think that I did a horrible job, or and have like one mean comment just ruin my day, or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there won't be a lot of stuff like that, but yeah, if that's what you need to do, then definitely possibly avoid.
I've
But
already got like some validation. I got some validation from people that I was never expecting to hear from, that could actually get like films made. And so I've already, and like, I just have to remember that like there are people that I know that really like this film, and I need to remember that, so I don't too
anybody who'd given you that advice previously, who'd seen it, or I suppose.
Oh no, I had no connections to the industry.
Okay.
Before this film. So as soon as I got into as soon as that Variety review released, then a whole bunch of people reached out to me from different parts of the industry, and it was telling me that they liked it and they would want to meet with me, and so that was
it's lovely.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
It was yeah.
Just a couple more questions regarding the actual content of the movie, which you haven't really gone into, because obviously I don't want to spoil too much for anybody who might listen to this episode and then want to go check out the movie, which of course we're going to link in the show notes to the trailer. And by the time this episode comes out, it will be available in the UK and in the US. So we'll link all the relevant places you can watch it. So in the moments of the film, we seem to tread a line of discussion between the influence of the supernatural and psychiatric illness. So what is your personal take on where these experiences meet?
It's definitely a product of mental health to me. Like the I don't think Sator is a real entity, and that's just my personal belief. My family will argue that one, and they argue within each other because my aunt thinks Sator is Satan, and my grandmother or my mom thinks Sator is a very nice, lovely being. And so that's far as the true story. As far as the film, that's left up to you guys. I'm leaning more mental health, but yeah, I leave it up to you intentionally like that. So
yeah, and that's probably why it works so well. I think that it's left up to the audience to make that decision. Obviously, incredibly sad to hear that your grandmother wasn't able to see the finished product.
She saw a clip. Saw one clip, and
that's
it was
exactly what I was going to ask then.
Yeah, so she saw a clip of herself, and she looked at the clip, and she's like, "Who's that old goat?" And that was like,
no, I did read that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was yeah. And she saw a trailer, not the trailer, but she saw a trailer that I made a long time ago that I didn't put anywhere. But yeah, she did get to see the film, so she would have been. I don't even know how she would have felt about it. She probably wouldn't even. I mean, I bet she would have enjoyed it if her mind was completely there. But yeah, it was a great, like, I really bonded with my grandmother over this experience. Our relationship was like, I've been around my grandmother my entire life, but it wasn't as close as it was during the making of this film. So that to me was really valuable. And
yeah.
So
I bet it was. So what's next from you, Jordan? Are you planning to make a new movie, or are you going to?
If I can get people to work to make them, yeah, I have a couple scripts I've written. One is a really heavy subject matter, which is about influenced by the child abductions that went on around Belgium in the 90s.
Okay.
So then I'm currently writing a still dark, but not a dark subject matter. It's a lot more fun film, I guess. And that one is about an impossibly long shipping container with a cosmic horror type feel to it.
Oh, wow. Are you staying entirely in the horror genre, would you say, going forwards?
Yeah, but like more along the lines of like Killing of the Sacred Deer. Okay. And psychological. I'm trying to get as farther away from the pop outs, and I like the creepiness more than the stuff that is going to make you jump. So there's a few of that in Sator, but yeah, I'm going. I love that genre. So I'm going to stay in there for definitely a while, and then eventually, I would like to adapt my grandmother's story into another film, but that'll be more of like a drama. But that's years down the line. I need to make a couple films away from Sator for a while.
Got 1,000 pages worth of content to work with, Jordan. So where can our listeners find more about you or keep up to date with your new projects?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram at Jordan Graham Film. I don't post a whole lot, but I'll try to do it a little bit more. And I guess that's it at the moment. I mean, you can go watch the film. I mean, you can go watch the film. Film will be, I don't know where on in the UK. I know it's coming out on Blu-ray and DVD at one point. Okay. But I don't know what streaming services you have out there.
I'm not sure where it's streaming, so I'll find out. And again, as I mentioned before, in the show notes, I'll put everything of where it's available. So if you like the sound of it, and you should, because it's great. It's a really accomplished film. I really enjoyed it. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jordan. So thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/Hawk and Cleaver. Thanks to Kovac Kauman for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rate and a review, and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. Thanks very much, Jordan. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.
You too.